Finance meeting is coming to order at 7:04.
I should have stolen one of your copies.
The issues tonight are the new possible, I'm sorry, train of thought, fees for the water park. And we also have a couple things here for the ball field needing money. And it's my understanding that it was supposed to have $5,000 already, which it did not. So that's something to consider. Also, Tony brought up that there was, they were asking for like 20 tons.
20 tons at $1,986. I told them the one should get 30 tons, have 10 tons left over, and that we would ask for $3,000.
10 tons for maintenance.
10 tons for maintenance, 20 tons to get the fields somewhat up to spec, and that way, therefore you have a torrential downpour and the fields get screwed up, you have enough to fix it.
Now you're gonna keep the other 10 ton
Up by the pool house,
out of the flood zone.
out of the flood zone.
And also Justin has brought up that he or they will need extra money for the chemicals for the pool. And I'd like to start the discussion if anyone would like to.
Oh, you mean Jason brought that up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, say Jessica, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She called me just.
Nancy, I'm married, I've been called worse, it's okay. Hi, Angie.
I got you on my mind.
Obviously.
Parking lot afterwards.
He was talking to Jason. All right, pool chemicals, Jason, what you got?
Last year in the budget, there wasn't enough.
We didn't spend it all last year.
Oh, I thought.
That's why I'm confused by this.
I thought we did, because this year they went up again. So.
So we didn't spend it all last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
I was under the impression we did.
10,000 in the
whole
budget
ball
last
pool.
year, we spent 7,500.
Is that what it was?
That's what it looks like in here.
So they went up again this year. Over last
So
year.
the only reason I'm confused, the last conversation I had was
Exactly 75.
Jeff Trawl estimated 20, and we've
Right,
never
and
spent
that's-
20, so I wasn't sure.
Well,
But
your
they went
expense
up.
report says,
They-
we had
there's-
7,500 budget, spent 7,500.
They're
last
saying, they're saying between 8 and 10 each.
Because we ended up moving for line items that were short in the pool. So it was 10,000 to begin with.
Okay.
Last year.
So we probably need 10,000 this year.
That's about where it needs to be this year. They're saying between 8 and 10. Unless we.
The only question-
Unless we just wait till closer to the end of summer and go there, because I've done a blanket already for the 7,500.
Yeah.
So that way we have a blanket with them. And let's just wait until we get low on that blanket. And
That was my only worry. So the only fund that makes me sweat is the rec fund. And so the rec fund had 40,000 in it last year. Pool did not have a good year, mostly due to rain and different things. So that fund is very close to zero. It obviously has revenue that comes in, so it's not like, I'm not trying to sound alarmist. I'm just trying to say we should probably just make sure we're very closely adding how much we're putting back in, or sorry, increasing the budget, if that makes sense. Because we don't want to end with a negative balance in any fund.
Yeah, I think Jason had the right idea with saying, hey, we've got 7,500 set aside for this so far.
Yeah, and I've already done a blanket with.
If we start to come up on it, then we can come back and say, hey.
Yeah, we're just watching, we're at 7,000 and we still have a month to go.
That's my thought. What do you think, Mr. Clement?
That's fine. Absolutely.
Fine. Okay. Now, are we going to talk about the ball field tonnage?
Yeah.
Are we done with the pool?
No, we haven't, we have
Oh,
to
I'm
talk
sorry.
about pool rates.
She
So,
wanted to save that for last. I didn't see it on her face.
oh, that's fine. So yeah, this, I talked about in the previous Parks and Rec Committee meeting about my suggestions on changing the pool pricing based on the Athens pool rates. I actually didn't look at Logan's pricing to compare it to that, but check into that afterwards, but I think at least being competitive with Athens, is a good first start. And, you know, the daily rate is not gonna change other than the ages 4 and up, and 3 and under are free, and the rates are gonna be the same for in-town versus out of town. And then, the rates that are in parentheses, that are in red on the original, documents that I circulated are what I'm proposing we go to. So, household, season passes, reducing that by $50, out of town, $50. Adult 18 plus, reducing 25, again on both in town and out of town. Youth, 25, 125 to 100, 150 to 125. And then seniors, going from 50 to 40 and 75 to 65. Employees that work for the city of Nelsonville and their immediate families would be free. And then we talked about active duty service and veterans, would also be free. And those were not published, at least in the last year's ordinance or on the website. And then, pool rental rates, $250 for 2 hours, after hours. Typically the pool parties are 7 to 9. And then we could offer pool parties during pool hours for up to 50 guests, which we've never offered before, for 150. And if you do the math, it actually works out to be about 150 would be 30 passes at $5 a pass. So you're getting some additional guests free to kind of stimulate people having pool parties during the pool hours, so we can get more occupancy, which would impact concession sales as well. Swimming lessons for child, changing that slightly from 50 to 45 to match Athens. Aerobics, I didn't see that offered on the previous ordinance. And the adult lap swims were not on the ordinance. And then silver sneakers would be something new. And again, that would be with a card, and it would only pertain to aerobics. The one thing I didn't mention was on the household, adjusting anything over 6 people would be $15 instead of $25. So that would be added to the either the in-town rate or the out-of-town rate. On the sheet that I handed out, I suggested early bird special pricing, 10% discount, but I'll remove that because I think we don't have time for it. I suggested a free swim on July, 50% off daily passes when deemed necessary to increase occupancy on slow days. And then offering sponsors of swim days 25% off, so that we can get more sponsors that have sort of the ability to show them that you sponsor $1,000. If $1,000 would be 200 kids, but it would cost them $750. And then there was some comments in here about city manager can adjust pricing up to 25% without council's approval when deemed necessary, and that would, obviously we're adjusting pricing now, so that would not come into effect this year. Concession pricing was not addressed in the ordinance, so I just want to make sure it's clear that city manager and pool manager can adjust concession pricing, because we know cost of food has been going up, so we want to make sure that we don't lose money, and it doesn't look like in years past that we have. And then I provided some financial statements for everyone to look at. First financial statement is the revenue projection for 2023, which is $113,533.79. We haven't really been bringing any revenue in other than tax money. So the year-to-date revenue is 11,147, and the budget 36,000. So if you look at the other years that I have on here, I probably should have had Taylor print off the budget for 2023, but I have a 2022 budget, which I don't think has changed dramatically from that, but the budget for 2022 was 146,000 for expenses, and we actually spent 130,800. So there was a difference of about 16,000 in expenses that we didn't actually. It was actually the unpaid balance, 15,347 is the actual number. So we stayed under budget last year, but last year was a bit different because we had a lot of rain days. The pool was only open 65 days. But if you look at the expenses for 2022, I mean, the income for 2022, year-to-date revenue, which would be that third column, we took in 57,000. So we had approximately a $73,000 shortfall from the actual expenses on the previous page. So that's pretty big shortfall compared to previous years. So by changing the rates, hopefully we can close that gap. In previous years, and I've got 2020, 2021, 2019, and 2018. So 2020 was the COVID year, so this is showing 27,000 in income because the pool was probably close most of the year, if not all the year. 2021 we had 96,000 in revenue, and 2022 we had, well, as I said, 56,000. So, and if you look at the previous years, 19 was a $93,000 year, and 2018 was an $83,000 year. So realistically, you know, we should be in that $90,000+ range for income. And I was quite surprised to see that, especially in 21 and 19 and 18, that our concession revenues were pushing $20,000, while our income is from just passes is in the $70,000 range. So does anybody have any questions on the revenue numbers?
I'd just like to clarify a couple of things here. As far as the senior rates, that's 65 and older, and you're gonna have your ID with you if you don't have the gray hair. The employees of Nelsonville, and also the active duty and the veterans, and also first responders, they're going to get in free, but they have to have their identification with them. But they will not be allowed in. Free.
Well, seniors
Free.
over 65, there is a fee of $40.
Oh, what'd I say? Seniors free?
Well, no, yeah. So,
That's all that I have, sir.
any,
Sir.
Greg?
So if we lower these rates to what you're proposing, how many anticipated additional passes do we need to sell to make up for that?
I have not run that number, because I have to look at, I don't know if Taylor provided, there was a spreadsheet that you sent me, and I for some reason, when I opened it up, I couldn't see the breakdown of the seasonal passes.
Right, sorry, what's the question?
No, he was asking how many additional passes would we need to sell in order to make up for,
Oh, I don't know. This is tonight's the first time I've seen
yeah,
this proposal, so
right,
I don't have that prepared.
right.
When you say out of town, do we have some way of identifying our students who live in Hopewell or Carbon Hill, which is
Don't
out
they
of
have student
town?
IDs?
Nancy.
Yeah, but I don't think I think if you're,
We don't target them, they're not the
well,
ones.
what we were proposing, not in this meeting, but we were gonna, once we have the new rates established, we wanted to send flyers out to the schools and see if they would be able to make copies to give to the students so they can take them home, show their parents, you know what I mean, kind of get word out through, the various, Nelsonville, York, the school, some of the other schools in the surrounding.
So will
area.
it say on there that if you're a student in the Nelsonville York School District, you will not pay the larger rate? I mean, that doesn't seem fair. The kids would have to be charged because they live in Brooksville.
Well, I guess Brookville's considered out of town, right?
Yeah, that's my question. I mean,
Right.
that ought to tick everybody.
But if
off.
they're going to, we actually don't specify a student rate on here. So I mean, if you're going to Nelsonville, York School,
I believe if you're a student of Nelsonville, I think that you should be the in-town rate.
yeah, I mean, then we could put that in to the ordinance for sure. I mean, I like that idea.
Nelsonville City Schools.
I mean, Nelson,
That's what it's called.
so then basically Nelsonville City Schools would be,
Nelsonville York.
Nelsonville booked the wasn't it?
Nelsonville York.
well, there
City
could be
Schools.
some 18-year-olds that are in high school, right? So we want include. So we'll just put in there,
Nelsonville York.
any Nelsonville York School student would get the in-town rate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Don't they have student IDs?
Yes, they do.
There you go.
So we'll just put Nelsonville, York students get in-town rate.
So how do we handle it when their parents bring them over and say, okay, you get the in-town rate, we get two, right? But parents don't live in town. Devil's advocate here, just thinking through scenarios.
And how complicated is this gonna be for the people taking in the money? Are the lifeguards the one that collect the money on?
Well, everything's done through Square and we have so once we get this approved, we'll set this up on a pad. And so when somebody comes in, shows their ID, we know what age group they're in, we just set it up and it's just a one button. Square is extremely simple and we can adjust in Square fairly quickly.
So here where it says we'll offer up to 50% on daily passes when deemed necessary to increase occupancy on slow days, how does that process work?
Well, there would be a Square, there would just be a tab in there that has 50% off daily passes and,
I think he's asking more about how the process would work too, how that determination would be made.
Yeah,
Well, I
who
mean,
determines that and then,
well, it would be the pool manager, the city manager, because there are days, according to Jason and Adam, where there were literally like 4 or 5 kids at the pool. So it's not like, this is gonna, be a weekly or daily 50% off. This is just to try it and see if we can get 50 kids to come down. So we don't have to start sending lifeguards out.
how are you gonna get the word to them in an hour?
Put it on Facebook.
Huh? Well, we put it out on Facebook.
My kids aren't getting on Facebook, I can tell you that. They say it's for old people like me, so.
Well, we got, I mean,
True.
the good thing is,
I mean,
we've got access to social media.
Snapchat's what all kids
I
use.
have no idea how to use
I mean, we could be progressive and put it out on
Yeah.
Snapchat. I mean,
Honestly, that's,
Maybe helping.
the race, I don't have a problem trying different races, I know we're trying to get occupancy up. I haven't seen questions, Greg, and that's my concern is, the variability of these rates based on day to day. If I'm a person who paid for my kids to get in, then all of a sudden it goes out on Facebook, hey, come on down, we're on a half price, do I get my money back?
We can't do it that way.
So
I mean,
I would suggest leaving that part out.
we can leave
I
that part
thought
out.
you were gonna leave that out.
They
No,
talked
it's
about
fine.
it.
We
You
talked
guys
about
talked
it, but we can leave that out. That's
Oh,
fine. I'm not gonna,
That's my
oppose
biggest
leaving that
issue
out.
is the gray area. I don't like gray areas.
So when is this ordinance gonna come before council?
Monday.
I would like to bring it to council on Monday.
As an emergency?
Right.
So then there's no opportunity for public input or anything like that?
You're bringing it before council.
I'm bringing it before
Yeah, and
council
we're
tonight.
doing it right now
And then the
live.
ordinance would be available next Monday night.
Right.
And I guess Greg's point is typically with ordinances, especially like these, you're gonna have more than one reading. I know tonight we're gonna talk about it here and all that, but we've got, today's Monday, we've got another week. Usually you're talking 4 weeks before something starts to the time that it ends. And we just wanna make sure we're being as, pardon me if I'm speaking for you, Greg.
No, you're fine.
Try to be as deliberate and transparent as possible. So, sorry, I spoke to you, Greg.
You're fine.
Didn't even see your lips move.
Last meeting of the month.
You can read it Monday, leave the emergency on it, and have a second reading on the second meeting.
I didn't see what this is. See Viper
You
in.
could do that.
If the idea is to get a flyer home with the students so that their parents would know about the change in prices.
Yeah, it would be nice to
In a
have it
good
done
amount
before
of time.
some people buy it at the
Then-
whole price. That's why I
Then we
was
need
trying
to
to
go
get
ahead
it.
and work on it, yeah.
Where are they buying the pool passes ahead of time?
Well, I don't know about buying them before the pool opens. I guess if they were to come down, is there a way to do that?
They usually just come to my office.
So,
So you'll know about the prices and you can say,
well,
huh?
if the prices aren't in
Oh, I
place,
need this
before,
pass.
if the prices aren't in place
Every time you say
before Memorial Day, then I think now we're gonna have more issues because if we have, 50 people that have bought these passes at last year's prices, and now we reduce it, so I don't think anybody's bought a pass today. So if we're gonna make this work,
there's a way to buy passes online. And everything else these days is online, so I just thought it out.
I'd say it is a good idea.
I've done a few once in a while.
yeah, I mean, we could, buy passes online. I mean, you have access to, we just have to figure out who would process the transaction through Square.
I think it just buys, I think one of the things with Square is it's like an escalating product. The more needs you have, the more you have to buy, which is fine. It just, we've always bought the basic because we've only used it for
So
point of
when-
sale
when-
transactions.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Who's gonna make the decision about what time the pool is gonna open and what time the pool's gonna close?
We gotta get the money for them.
Well, I think that has a lot of value in this.
well, I don't think that's in an ordinance anywhere, so I can make that decision. And if, council's okay with keeping it open to 7 o'clock, that would be about the limit.
That would be very nice. if
Because
you did that.
we're still looking for lifeguards. And the longer we keep the pool open, the less chance we're gonna have to have proper coverage. So, if we start out at, a certain schedule, then there's nothing that says we can't change the schedule. If we feel like people are missing out. And then we can keep the pool open on some days till 8 o'clock and we'll announce that.
You can do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday till 8 o'clock. Because like I said, most of the parties were Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, okay, so Monday,
Some
Tuesday,
Sundays.
Wednesday, we can stay open till 8.
And
And
then
then,
leave your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for people to book parties. Because,
Right.
I mean, Taylor can back me up on
Right.
this, there were a bunch of parties.
right. And I would recommend on the days of parties that we stay open till 6. Give it an hour between a pool party and when the pool closes so we can clean up a little bit.
Thank you for the consideration and for doing that.
Do you have historical data on the number of people who come through by day of the week, or can you get that?
We'll pull it from Square. He sent it to me.
2 or 3 years.
I need to look at the spreadsheet.
I know last year Wednesday was our slowest. Because there was actual talk about closing on Wednesday, just making that like a cleaning day, 2 or 3 hour. Lifeguards in there cleaning it.
Might be a good day to push parties.
You have a grown one.
Can I ask the committee or the city manager a question? There's one part of this, I have, obviously, it's not my say, but I have no objections or anything, but the third to the last proposal is like the same as the one you guys had discussion on. What I mean is the 25% price change.
Yeah, that we're gonna,
Versus-
we can, since we're already changing the price, there's not gonna be an additional. We took off the other stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
right,
So you're, sorry,
So we're gonna cut that part out.
yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, okay.
cut that.
Well, I was, yeah, okay. My question was gonna be, what's the definition of necessary here? But
Trying to get rid of the gray areas and brass tacks.
you know, I'm a very literal person.
Well, you got, in this business, you gotta be,
Black and white.
yes.
And I think we got pretty much all the classes that we're gonna establish. As needed. The only thing I did point out here is we do have a safe swim class that's paid for out of a charity, that they wanna do the training for handicapped, children, at our pool. We have 2 sessions for 6 days.
If I could color in some of the conversation with the city manager, kind of assisting what he's proposing to you guys. He said it quickly, but we didn't hold on it. But last year's pool year, because of rain, I think, would we say 67, 65 days open. Besides COVID, that's about the shortest season we've ever had. And we lost.
Not to interrupt, but while you're talking about the rain,
Mhm.
we really pushed it on the days when it rained. We wouldn't call it till an hour before the pool was supposed to be open. Yeah, we would sit and watch it because there was some days we called it ahead of time and it turned out to look like this that whole day. So we would watch it very closely
Right.
to call it at no more than an hour before.
Well,
So people had.
the point I bring is that the rec fund was a recovering fund until last year. It went from $40,000 balance to close to zero as it sits now. And obviously, new funds come in and people buy passes, but it definitely, the council, the departments, the auditor, city manager will all want to push volume hard and advertise to our residents, because a pool with no attendees is a pool not breaking even or at least paying for itself. And it's not a profitable enterprise, it's not meant to be, but we also want to make sure that fund is defended and can serve future generations and kids. And I think this is an important year for that. I just wanted to color some
Did
of
you
that.
say you had $40,000 last year?
Yeah, it's carryover, like money that was carrying over. And the pool, he said the exact number earlier, but it was like $38,000 loss that fund took because of extensive repairs and too few days open.
Right.
So
Okay.
I know we can't control the weather,
Right.
but obviously there are lots of places where changes could be made. Obviously, it's Bernie's call in the end, but examples of, like, if it's raining at 11, it might not be at 2. So a full day closure might not be necessary, I think.
Right.
And then just getting our kids there.
Anybody else?
No, did I read wrong? Weren't active duty and veterans, weren't they free previously?
Yes.
Yeah,
10% off.
we scratched it out. They're not
Okay, that's
free.
what, okay.
But
Okay.
it was never put,
I thought I'd read it somewhere.
it wasn't on our website and it wasn't in the 2023.
And your first responders too, don't forget them.
Yeah, we can add first responders as well. Yep.
I would like to ask Mr. Booth to do us a favor. You seem to know, and I don't mean this, you know a lot of people in town,
A couple.
okay? Would you consider being like the person or the chairperson to go around and check for the sponsors, the sponsors days.
Honestly, that's gonna be awfully tough for me, because I work a lot. I can make phone calls, emails and things like that, but being a point person on that's probably not the right thing for me.
All right,
Might be better for maybe our city manager to knock on some doors.
Yeah, no, I'm making some phone calls,
oh, okay, then I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Thank you for thinking of me then.
right?
Okay, well, my
Yeah,
sister would say you could even,
In fact, I wrote down
I'll see if I can get in contact with you.
York Fire Department did actually a few, well, you mentioned a few when we were talking. Rockies is probably gonna do something as well, some of the other businesses in town.
Are we still going to sell signs for advertising in the pool?
I didn't know that was an option, because it sounded like the only thing I heard about a sign was McDonald's was gonna pay for new speakers, and they asked, all they wanted to do was put a sign up in the pool, but
Yeah, we
sure, if we get a donation from Rockies, or we get,
Well, we passed an ordinance last year to actually sell advertising signs with the sizes and everything.
Yeah, signs on the fencing.
didn't even see that, so yeah, I would definitely push for signage.
Was that on the
I think this is the
outside
first
of the
season, right?
fence?
That
Inside,
was, yeah.
I was
last year,
gonna say,
first season.
outside and
I thought it was
inside.
the
Yeah, we just
inside.
passed it last
It was
year.
outside and inside.
Yeah, there's an ordinance out there addressing that.
Different prices?
Based on size.
Based on size.
Yeah, so
Who's
There were-
bringing the
there were-
signs? Would they provide their own signage, because that could get,
I think so.
yes, provided their own signs, and there was a different price based on.
There's a
size.
different
There were
price
two
based on the
different
size.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah. I think we only had one buyer last year, but I think it was past the middle of the season.
Yeah, it was towards the end of the year.
It was.
If I recall correctly.
Any other questions for me?
anything else? And I would like to close the finance meeting.
Are we gonna
Oh, wait,
say
wait a minute.
council?
Oh, I'm sorry, see, you wouldn't let me do it before.
You just didn't want to ask me.
All right, the baseball field, they need dirt. They have said that for 20 tons, they could get 1986 would be the price. And Tony suggested that they go ahead and get 30 tons and we'll give them the $3,000.
Appropriate, we have to appropriate the town, right? Is it in, do we have it in the budget?
There's 3,700 in park operating for league expenses, but I'm gonna guess, I mean, that's not a lot of money for parks. I'm gonna guess Jason has ideas for that already.
Yeah,
So,
we just still gotta pay for porta johns and
mhm.
everything else.
So yes, you guys have to appropriate. For the lighting, that stuff.
Do we have any?
Yeah, we need to make a recommendation to move this on to full council on the pool rates.
Would you like to do that, sir?
Yeah, I'm gonna start off saying though, I'm going to support moving it on to full council, but that does not mean I support it as it is right now. That means I support moving it on. For those that would question or wonder that. Thank you.
I second that emotion.
Anything else, gentlemen?
So we're gonna move the dirt onto full council for
No,
appropriations.
I just want to make sure we had.
Oh, yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, the dirt. So do we have, tell me what we have to do with this?
We have to appropriate $3,000 for the
We
purchase
just
of this.
appropriate
Yes.
it? Okay.
Which
I can give you the line item if you like.
Oh, absolutely.
It is 300-250-40010.
$40010?
Yep. And it's called operating supplies, and that's in the recreation fund.
Now, this is what it's going to or coming from?
What it's going to, it'll come out of the unappropriated
General.
balance, yeah.
Okay.
The stuff you guys hadn't set aside yet.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I'm good.
I'm closing the finance meeting at 7:30.